Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. I'm Jack here, joined by my co-hosts Trevor Kaufman and Ryan Marister. And I think we should just jump right in with kind of all the craziness that was going on in the NFL this week and a crazy set of games, some crazy comebacks here in week two. And I wanted to turn it over to Ryan to talk about what was his favorite or least favorite comeback in the NFL this week.
I feel like I shouldn't be talking about comebacks this week because I'm just sad. I sit here after my team blew a 30-17 lead with a minute 50 to go in the game. And I guess we can start with this because I was just shocked. I mean, I sat there and I told Trevor, I turned the game off. Nick Chubb scored with about a minute 55 left on the clock. Past the 2-minute warning, Jets with no timeouts. I turned the game off. My cousin was at the game. She left the stadium. I mean, it was over. I mean, this game was done. And the Browns lost. It was unbelievable. As soon as the Jets got the onside kick, I knew it was over. I knew we were going to lose. You could just see it. You could just tell that the defense didn't know what they were doing. And this goes to a larger thing, right? And it's Joe Woods. Right. And Trevor might defend our D coordinator a little bit. I'm curious what you guys have to say. But like for Browns fans, last year, Joe Woods was on the hot seat. He was under the microscope. Trevor knows we talked about it extensively last year. The Browns defense wasn't very good to start the year last year. It was giving up a lot of points, 25, 30 plus a game. Second half of the year, it turned it around and was elite. It was really, really good. So that's why Joe Woods was able to keep his job and people ended up liking him and liking what he did because we won games last year because of the defense. But they come out this year and give up broken play after broken play in back-to-back weeks, let Joe Flacco tear them apart for 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards. And you sit there and you're like, what happened to this defense? I mean, the talent's there. What happened? And the answer is 2 things. 1, miscommunications, and 2, the defensive scheme. Back-to-back weeks, like I said, there have been guys who are 20 yards open. There's no one within 20 yards of them. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it almost lost us the game week 1, and it lost us the game in week 2. It's unacceptable. And sure, you can blame the players, the communications, the problem. Someone should be benched, probably. But if that keeps happening, the coaches also have to figure out a way to get this fixed. Like, I'm sorry, it cannot keep happening. And the second is the scheme. The soft zone that we run is a problem, right? Everyone, I think all 3 of us can agree, soft zone isn't very fun to watch, nor do we think it's very effective generally throughout a game. Like it gives the opponent the ability to just throw 10 to 12-yard passes all game and slowly beat you. And it's awful. There was very little variation. There was no sense of urgency, particularly in those last 2 drives. And throughout the game, really, I mean, the Jets were able to move the ball pretty effectively, and it was unacceptable. Like you had to change it up. Blitzes, some man coverage, like, do what your corners are good at. Let Myles Garrett and Clowney get to the quarterback by giving them a couple other guys on a blitz. Like, get them in one-on-one situations around the line of scrimmage. There was no variation. It was a problem. And when the Jets put up 31 on you, I mean, you should be embarrassed. And the way they lost was embarrassing. And I also want to say, I don't blame Nick Chubb. Anyone who blames Nick Chubb is ridiculous. The guy scored with less than 2 minutes left. Jets had no timeouts. And it was a 2-touchdown game. I mean, I cannot think of any reason anyone should blame Nick Chubb for that loss. Sure, we would have won if he took a knee, but how in the world is he supposed to know that the Jets would get 2 touchdowns in a minute 30 or a minute 25? Really, I mean, it was insanity. So I don't blame him at all, and I don't really blame Stefanski either. I showed Trevor this before we got on the pod tonight. Stefanski was keeping his head up. He kept moving on to the next play, kept doing what a leader would do. Wasn't thinking about it, wasn't getting angry, wasn't, stressing over what already happened. He was moving on to the next play, moving on to the next thing, trying to inspire the guys, trying to keep them focused and on to the next play. And it just didn't work. But I wouldn't blame Stefanski either. I would blame Joe Woods, and I'd blame the players on defense, especially in the secondary, for the lack of communication. It was disgusting. I won't even say the Jets played well. They didn't. They're pathetic. They're bad. The Browns defense was just god awful. The Jets deserve 0 credit for this win. Okay. It's all on the Browns secondary. It's all on Joe Woods. It was all on Amari Cooper for not hustling for the ball and the hands team on the onside kick. No, this was the Browns that lost this game. This was not the Jets winning it. Let me tell you, this is the Browns losing the game. pathetic. And let me just say, Stefanski's having to move on effectively to Thursday night. Big game for the Browns, need to bounce back. But I mean, wow, what a brutal, brutal loss. 2-0, first place in the AFC North, maybe going to 3-0 against a divisional opponent would have been massive. Now,
especially without
Deshaun
Watson,
that would have been like, wait, we could really make the playoffs. Now it's like, you need to win this game. I mean, you can't go 1-2 with this easy schedule at the early part of the season. You've got to you have to win against the Steelers tomorrow night. You have to. So awful. I don't know. Trevor, what do you have to say about this? I'm curious. I mean, I already know, but like, go ahead. I have a lot
to say. And I'm going to start with this. I think the Cleveland Browns just aren't that good of a football team. I really don't. I don't see, outside of Nick Chubb, I don't see anything special about this football team. I see it in spurts. I see Myles Garrett make a special play. I see Jadeveon Clowney make a special play, and they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. But to me, there's nothing special about this Browns team. There's nothing scary about this Browns team. And this defense is a train wreck. Let's be real. This defense made Baker Mayfield look like Tom Brady in the second half of that game.
Okay, not really.
Week 1. Ryan just screwed me up. Sorry.
Sorry.
Week 2, they make Joe Flacco, who is a Hall of Famer, look like prime Joe Flacco when he was leading the Baltimore Ravens, to the Super Bowl in 2012, 2013. Flacco going for 315 yards and 4 touchdowns. So when I watch that, I don't know if I agree with Ryan. I blame the coaching a little bit, but I also blame the players to an extent because, look, you can't play the game for them. And you can't, I don't know how a coach, I can't blame a coach for a guy being 25 yards open down the field behind the defense. And let's not forget, that is the cardinal sin of when you're up, when you're up by 2 scores, let's say with less than 2 minutes to go, or when you have a lead with a little bit of time left in a game, right? The cardinal sin is don't let someone get behind you, keep everything in front of you. And for that to happen 2 weeks in a row is just some kind of mental lapse with one of the safeties, one of the corners. I know Ryan's brought up the name Grant Delpit.
Oh yeah.
Who seems to be the criminal here and giving up these big plays. But that's
back-to-back weeks.
That to me is basic. That's basic football. That's stuff you learn at maybe the VART JV freshman level of high school. Like that's not complicated. Keep everything in front of you. Rule number 2 is recover an onside kick, right? Like you can blame Amari Cooper a little bit for that. I think that's a fair criticism, but you got to recover an onside kick.
Yeah.
Right. The rules nowadays make it so hard for teams, or I should say for kicking teams to recover an onside kick. There's just no excuse. I don't care about the bounce. I don't care about the weird hop it takes. You need to be able to hold on to a football and grab a football and seal a game. There's just no excuses for that. And number 3, I'm going to touch on the scheme here. This is part of a larger issue we're seeing in the NFL right now. And I think the scheme of playing zone coverage, rushing 4 guys is not going to work unless you have an elite defensive line or elite corners. And neither team has both. Or I should say no team in the NFL has both. But I think the larger issue is, and why we're seeing so many leads, evaporate is we look at, and this is, I'm stealing this from my guy, Colin Cowherd. It's a good point, though. Hear me out. It's a good point.
I know.
Think about these drafts the last 3, 4, 5 years. Think about the receiver quality we've seen in these drafts in the last few years, right? Like think about how many good receivers there have been. There's just a surplus of good receivers and a shortage of good corners. It's simple as. And if you're going to give a quarterback 10 seconds in a clean pocket when you're only rushing 4 guys, even if you have 7 in coverage, somebody's going to get open. There's just not enough good corners in this league. And that's why we're seeing so many teams, make huge comebacks. There's no lead that's safe anymore. And I think that's something defensive coordinators are going to have to adjust. And for the Browns, when you have a really good defensive line, and really good corners, actually, I mean, you have good press cover corners.
Yeah,
use pressure to your advantage, play aggressive on defense, force the ball out of a quarterback's hands quickly. And it's not like you're playing elite quarterbacks here. You're not playing Patrick Mahomes. You're not playing Kyler Murray. You're not playing Josh Allen. You're playing Baker Mayfield and you're playing Joe Flacco, who aren't great at this point in their careers.
Trevor,
There's
Joe
just no
Flacco-
excuse.
Joe Flacco got his first win as a Jet this past Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was probably the best game Joe Flacco's had in 5 years. That game he had this past Sunday.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a combination of the scheme. It's a combination of breakdowns. I blame the players more than I blame the coach, because at the end of the day, the coach's scheme was working at the end of last season, as Ryan mentioned. This defense finished top 5 in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
It was a lockdown defense second half of last season,
Mhm.
and it didn't get worse in the offseason. Nobody left. I can't think of one notable player on this defense that's not there anymore. I can't. I literally can't. Right? They kept Clowney. They kept Garrett, Ward, Newsome.
They added depth.
Koromoa. So everybody's there.
Yep.
It's a weak offense. Maybe the scheme's not great. Maybe the scheme doesn't fit what your players like to do best. But at the end of the day, it worked last season. So for me, it's on the players 75%. It's on the coach 25 at this point.
Yeah, and it's funny, Trevor, you say weak. I'll let you go ahead in a second, Eden. Sorry, but you say weak offense, and it's funny. The offense put up 30. You know what I mean? Like, it's a weak offense, and they did their job. The offense looked great. Like, I didn't even get to talk about it. If we had won, I get to talk about how great the offense looked. Brissett looked like a great game manager. He didn't make mistakes. He led them down the field. Amari had a 100-yard game. Like, Chubb was fantastic. Kareem was good as always. The O-line was good. Like, the offense was awesome. And it's so sad that, like, all their hard work and, like, everything they did just went down the drain.
It's just an inexcusable loss, and it happens every year. You got to finish a game. You got to play a game 60 minutes, and that's a perfect example of why you can't take your foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And there's something seriously wrong when you're giving up 70-yard touchdowns when you're up 13 with 1:50 to go. That just can't happen.
Yeah.
A guy can't be running free behind the defense. That's cardinal sin number one when you're protecting a lead, is keep everything in front of you. Don't give up the big play. It's happened 2 weeks in a row, and it's inexcusable. And my final point is the Browns aren't that good, and nobody's afraid of them. And I'll move on.
I'm just gonna say, hold on. I'm gonna say, look, the Browns have more talent. Like, Trevor's disrespecting them a little bit. The Browns have a lot of talent at most positions. Okay, this is a little disrespectful. All right, I'm gonna disagree. But look, Eden, go ahead.
Sorry.
I just want to say, what's up with the AFC North going up against the New York Jets over the last 2 years? Like, last year, you had the Bengals blow that game late. This year, it's the Browns. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, just crazy, 2 crazy comebacks there. But you two focus on the defense, and I think you touched on that enough. And I kind of want to focus on the offense. And I know I don't want to necessarily blame them for those instances where they could have gone down, but ultimately, they had 2 different chances that they could have ended that game. I see Ryan's face agape right now, but they had 2 chances. 3rd and 7. It's a pitch play, I believe, to Kareem Hunt. Picks up the first down, runs out of bounds with 2:02 left on the clock. If he slides down and stays in bounds there, time goes to 2 minutes. 2-minute warning, 3 knees, game's over. Next play, 2:02 on the clock. Chubb runs in for a touchdown, and I'm gonna blame this more on Kareem Hunt than on Nick Chubb, because the first down line was at the 1-yard line, and at that point, if you're at the 1, like, you're gonna go into the end zone. But we noticed that Nick Chubb did run out at the 1 last year in order to win a game on a long run, but then he ended up just going down.
Granted, it was a 1-possession game, mind you, right? Like, it was
true. But so was this. This was a 1-possession game until he scored a touchdown, right? So it's in my opinion, it's the same situation outside of the fact that he had 50 yards to run last year and realized I should go down before, versus this time he crosses the first down marker at the 1-yard. So I'm going to put less on Chubb, and I think you see this all the time, that players will go down. On Thursday night last week, you saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a big run and slid down. Like, some players are just more aware, and Kareem Hunt should have known getting the first down there ends the game, and he didn't. And ultimately, that leads to the Chubb touchdown, which no one's thinking, oh, they're going to come back. It's a 13-point lead. Missed extra point, terrible breakdown on defense, giving up a big play, onside recovery. They go back down the field and score another touchdown. So they scored 14 points in that last minute 22 versus the 17 throughout the first 59 minutes of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, you got to blame the defense there, but ultimately the Jets, how are the Jets scoring 14 points that quick? Like, that game should have been over. The offense, first of all, shouldn't have given the Jets a chance. And then second of all, I want to talk about the effort too from
Don't even
the
say
defense.
this.
And I know Ryan's going to be upset with me about this, but
There's no way.
Corey Davis literally ran a straight route right by two defenders,
Mhm.
caught the ball 10 yards ahead of them, and neither of those two defenders went after him in the slightest. And you know what I think psychologically they're saying there is? It's a two-possession game. We recover the onside kick, it's over. But I want to equate this to something in soccer. Does anyone know what the most dangerous score in soccer is? Trevor, do you know?
Is it when you're up 2-0 and a team scores one back?
It's when you're up 2-0, you're focused within the game, you let that go. As soon as a team scores a touchdown or scores a goal, it's game on. And by the time you get back into your rhythm, it's 2-2. And I think you can see a lot of that example in soccer in that one play to Corey Davis. They let him have it. Oh, we just need to recover the ball and it's over. You don't. Now you're like, wow, this game is like we could lose this game. And by that time, it's too late to clock in and the Jets go down and score a touchdown. So I just think maybe it wasn't a lack of effort from that one play I saw. It was a lack of effort. Maybe it was just a lack of focus, a lack of care at that point in the game because you think it's over, but ultimately you have to play out those full 60 minutes. That's where I fault the Browns defense. Not necessarily there was a breakdown, but I think mentally and from what I saw on that one play with the lack of effort, that's where I fault the Browns.
I want to jump in here real quick. I'm going to jump in here real quick, Ryan, because I know Ryan's going to object to this. But I think Eden makes a great point here, and I'm going to explain it a little bit further. Right, the Browns the Browns go up 30-17. The defense is playing a good game. You know, they've only given up 17 points, you know, to this point. But now you're up 13. You're kind of like, okay, like, you know, we don't really need to be as like, I don't want to say as focused, but we don't need to be like all the way there, is what I'm trying. It's not Super Bowl level pressure right now. We're up 13 with 1:50. Even if they go down and score, it's whatever. The Jets get that one big play. They get that goal back to make it 2-1. It's tough for a defense to reflip that switch, to turn it back on, right? They have to re-find that rhythm, that intensity, that engagement. And the Jets scoring didn't really even flip that switch because they were going to go back to the sidelines. They still thought the game was over. All of a sudden, the Jets get the onside kick. Now the defense has to flip the switch. They really have to like pick it up to save the game because the game is being lost. And it's tough to match that kind of intensity that you kind of just gave away there for those few minutes, I think is what Jack's trying to say, if I'm not mistaken here, Jack, right?
It's 100% correct. And
which is why
completely inexcusable from the Cleveland.
But look, if you're
which
trying to
is
say
why
that,
you see the Jets go down and score a second time. The Browns defense just couldn't find that rhythm and intensity again. But go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
well, but like, okay, two things. One, it's hard to find the intensity when your coach is telling you to play 15 yards off. Like I'm sorry. Like when the coach is telling you to play soft zone like this and you're like, oh, give up 10, 12 every play. Like even on that final drive.
But you didn't. You gave up 60.
No, but on the final drive.
What the defense
on the
is
final
designed
drive.
to stop.
When they're on the final drive, when they're supposed to lock in, they're not locking in. They're locking in to play some prevent defense. Like what is this? Like they're not locking in for anything. And that comes down to the play calling. Like what is that? Like you're saying, yeah, keep giving up 15 yards, but yeah, try. Like what? No, like play press, play aggressive. Like the play calling didn't help them when it comes to locking back in. I think it's just as much on no, I think that's awful as well. Also, if you're looking at the play, no, this wasn't about a lack of effort or a lack of care on that 60, 70-yard bomb, okay? When you're up,
I could say it was about a lack of care. Effort, no. I guess, is arguable because
no, it's not about a lack of. It's not about. Look, here's
a lack of care.
Players
is definitely in my
in that
mind.
situation, nobody's going 100%. But there's a difference between not going 100% and giving up 20 yards behind you. Right? That's not like not going 100%. That's not a lack of care. That's neglect. Like that's just being straight up neglectful. Like 20 yards behind you. Like I get like a 25-yard completion in front of you. I get that. Whatever. Sure. The clock's ticking. Who cares? 70-yard touchdown. That's not like a lack of care. That is straight up like just like you for something your brain broke. I don't know. Like you're an idiot. You should be benched. Like that to me is like a whole nother level. Like it's just not even. No, to me, that's just a whole other stratosphere. I've never like players don't go hard up 13 with a minute 50, but this isn't not going hard. This is not even. This is just like forgetting something.
But
And
again,
it's
though,
pathetic.
on that final drive, Ryan, you're still up 6. That team still has to go into the end zone and score a
Yeah.
touchdown.
Yeah.
So the mantra, I shouldn't say the mantra, but what's the term I'm looking for? Right? Like what you're thinking in the back of your head is, don't give up the big play, right? You want to keep everything in front of you, which sort of like inadvertently makes you play softer coverage because you want to keep everything in front of you. And look, when you're in that kind of mode, it's very easy for an offense to get into the red zone. So when the Jets got the ball at the 40-yard line or wherever, and the Browns are playing soft zone, the Jets are probably going to go down the field with ease to about the 15, 20-yard line.
They shouldn't.
But once they get in the red zone, you got to figure out a way to keep them out of the end zone. It's easier to keep them out of the end zone than to let them in. And the Browns let him in. It was a wide open play. It wasn't really that like hard of a completion or catch. It was just a guy running over the middle of the field wide open. I don't know. I that's where I kind of think Eden's point has some merit. It's like, it's this like mental mental like refocus that like the Browns just couldn't find. They couldn't find that like, intensity again. It just felt way too easy for the Jets. I don't know. I think it was like shell shock. I'm being serious.
Yeah,
like,
and that might be true, but I think the play calling didn't help that, right? Like when you're telling guys to play soft.
But again, the play calling is designed to not give up the big play.
Sure,
right?
But it did. But like it did. Like that's literally what happened, right?
On the
like,
last, yeah, I mean.
And also like they keep giving up chunk plays. Like I know what you're saying, but like my point is to me it's hard to engage like at like a high intensity level when you keep being told like play safe. Do you know what I mean? That's just my mindset there.
Maybe. I mean, eventually in the red zone, they probably should have, got some pressure.
They never dialed it up. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
that's
awful.
fair. But
awful.
I think we've diagnosed this game well enough, fellas. I think we're going to move on to
Yes.
another crazy game this weekend, and we're going to stay in the AFC here. An AFC interconference, interdivisional matchup. I don't know if that's the right term, but we're going to talk about the Dolphins and the Ravens, and I got to eat a little bit of crow here because
yes, you do.
Well, I was 75% of the way there, but the final 25% I was let down.
So were the Browns.
Trevor,
man.
yeah, exactly. Trevor, you like to say a game is what is a game?
A game is 60 minutes long.
Sorry,
that is very true. And I think the
minutes.
Miami Dolphins are another great example of that. I'll let one of you two brag about how you were both correct about this prediction. Neither of you picked the Dolphins to win, but you picked them to cover. So you get that much. But I was wrong. I thought the Ravens were going to win with ease, but one of you take it away.
You can go ahead. I went first on the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've learned this week is that when you have guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle who are big play threats, you're never really out of a football game. I didn't watch much of this game. I did catch the very end, but in terms of what I saw, Lamar Jackson is doing Lamar Jackson things, both throwing and running the ball for the first 3 quarters and is unstoppable, and they're scoring a ton of points. And then I don't know exactly the number of points that the Dolphins scored in the 4th quarter. I believe it was 4 touchdowns, 28 points scored in the 4th quarter. Did Baltimore even score? Did they score a field goal or something? Yeah, exactly. And I think this is very different from my take on the Browns game. I think the Browns mentally checked out, like I said, and that's what let the Jets back in the game. But on the flip side here, I think it was just Tyreek Hill being too fast, getting behind defenders, Jalen Waddle being too fast, getting behind defenders, and just using their talents to run around the Baltimore defense versus the fact that the Baltimore defense gave this game away. Like
they did kind of give it away, to be honest. I mean, they gave 28 in 1 quarter.
Yeah, I mean, but you have 4-3 speed on either side of the field who, I mean, they just ran right by you. So yeah, they did give it away, but I think you got to give give Miami more credit than take away from Baltimore. More unlike the other game where I'm taking away more from Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But anyways, the performance that Tua put up this week, who would have thought? Like, think about this. Week 2 of the season, we said some guy goes for 450 passing yards, more than that, and 6 touchdowns. How many guesses would it have taken for us to get to Tua? I think probably maybe double digits. And I think, you give him weapons and he can show you what he's capable of. what's his name? Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
Whoever the new coach is, Mike McDaniel, I think he has a great scheme. I think adding Tyreek Hill into the mix is going to make this team really dangerous. And they have a fun divisional matchup with the Bills this week, but they're a fun team to watch. I don't know if they win the division, but I think they're a legitimate playoff threat at this point, 2-0 in the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Trevor, do you want to go ahead? Talk about it for a minute.
And Trevor, we told you so. They did not win by 21 points. I just wanted to put that out there. That was disrespectful when you said it was a 21-point win.
Here's what I'm going to say.
And you were going to come on the podcast and tell us.
He didn't.
So we wanted to tell you.
Can we just say that after this game, ladies and gentlemen, Trevor wouldn't even give credit to. He didn't want to give credit to Tua. You know, he went for 560 Ds, and Trevor was laughing at him. I'm like, you gotta give a little
group
respect.
chat
And here's what I'm gonna do.
Got awfully quiet. It was just two of us texting back and forth instead of three. But.
It was funny.
You know what I'm going to do right now, fellas? I'm going to tell you who deserves the credit for this Dolphins win.
Who?
It's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tua had to throw to a bunch of wide open 4-3 speed guys. I give Tua no credit. Okay, I'm being a little facetious. Look, in all seriousness, through 3 quarters, I was loving what I was seeing because Tua showed me what Tua had been, just a very below average quarterback in this league. He threw 2 picks, wasn't really doing much, only put up 14 points, had a couple nice throws, but it was very underwhelming. They were getting tossed around the field by Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. And all of a sudden, 4th quarter comes around. I actually think this is very similar to what happened with the Browns. The Ravens just kind of checked out and thought the game was over. And this goes back to the point that I already made on this podcast is when you have good receivers in this day and age, you are never out of a football game because there is a shortage of good corners. And we saw it again. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I get they have 4-3 speed, but when you're up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, you should never let somebody get behind you on defense. That is rule number 1. That is the cardinal sin of protecting a lead is keep everything in front of you. So there's no excuse. I don't care if Tyreek Hill is running at the speed of light. Okay, maybe if he's running at the speed of light, he gets by you. But I don't care how fast he is. You have to keep him in front of you. You have to keep everything in front of you. Force Miami to go down the field, eat the clock, have a 10 or 12 play drive. But giving them a 1-play 70-yard touchdown is exactly what they need. It doesn't chew up any clock. It gets them right back in the game, and it fires up Tyreek Hill. And that's scary. Tyreek Hill fired up is a pretty good wide receiver. Not fired up, he's a pretty good wide receiver. So for me, this game is just the NFL today in a nutshell. Great weapons versus below average corners, and no lead is safe, right? I give Tua some credit. He got those guys the ball. But you know what? At the end of the day, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are Pro Bowl level wide receivers, and an average quarterback would be able to get them the ball. So I give Tua credit, but I'm not going to come on this podcast and talk about how great Tua is, especially after one game, and especially with 2 guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, with a nice complement of Chase Edmonds and Mike Gesicki and other nice weapons on this team, and an offensive-minded head coach. I just think, look, this is what I said before the game. Tua has everything now. There's no excuses. So look, he put up great numbers, but you know who else had a 400-yard, 6-touchdown game? Mitch Trubisky when he was in Chicago. These things can happen to anybody. It's a 1-game sample size. I'm not going to overreact to Tua, but I am going to say that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill is a scary wide receiver duo. And I was wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong in this prediction. Miami is not making the playoffs, and they're going to lose this weekend by at least 10 points to the Bills, and they're not going to cover.
Ooh.
There you have it. I'm not a believer in Tua. I'm just not.
Trevor, let me just say this.
Though.
I'll tell you, I wish Baker had 500-yard, 6 TDs in a game. Let me tell you that. Look, like I said, Tua and Baker, very similar situations from that past season. What was it, 2019 with the Browns? Very similar. This is a prove-it game for Miami, and they proved that they're legit to me. I said it. I said this is a prove-it game. They proved they were legit.
Baltimore gave it away, but yeah.
Well, okay, sure. Baltimore gave it away. Miami still had to score 28, right? I mean, Tua had to make the throws. Tyreek had to run the routes, right?
Here, let me throw to a guy wide open. Yeah, I'll give him that.
Trevor, who gave it away more, Cleveland or Baltimore?
I don't know. I think it's Cleveland because they had less time.
He was close.
I think Cleveland is slightly worse.
Debate, but I'm surprised.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I think it's Cleveland by a mile, right?
Look, you gave a team 28 points in 1 quarter. When has that ever happened? That might have happened once
Look,
in my lifetime.
I just think that look, at the end of the day, I think Mike McDaniel called a great game. He was really aggressive, and he knows how to get his guys open. He knows what they're good at, plays their strengths. And Tua has been mocked for his lack of accuracy or arm strength down the field. You can make fun of him all you want, but he made the throws down the field last week.
They're wide open,
dude. But people were laughing at him. Said he couldn't throw down the field. I mean, he's throwing like
he made one good contested throw at the end of the game to Jalen Waddle.
He made one good throw. You tell me he made one good throw?
One really good contested throw from what I remember.
I'd say that Gesicki touchdown was the only place he could have put it. I'd say that was a great throw. Look, we can make excuses and say Tua is not good for as long as we want. At a certain point, we have to give him a little bit of credit. Look, I think Eden and I, maybe me, are higher on Tua than Trevor. So I'm going to give him some more credit. I think he's a pretty good player. I think, sure, obviously he has to be more consistent. Sure, he makes some sloppy plays, but his O-line is awful. It's better than it was last year when it was the worst in the NFL, but it's still pretty bad. So he has a lot to handle. He's got pressure in his face. There was a time I watched this game. Justin Houston was unblocked 3 plays in a row. The O-line didn't block him. Nobody even tried to block him. So Tua's got his hands full with the O-line as well. So look, putting up 500 yards and 6 TDs against the Ravens defense is no small feat. So you got to give him some credit. Miami's legit. They got good. They have a talented defense. They didn't play well this past week. They showed up when they needed to at the end of the game. And Miami's offense exploded. I got to give them some credit. And they'll be fun to watch this year. I said they were a borderline playoff team. The AFC's loaded, so we'll see if they can make it. Starting 2-0, who knows? Ian might be right. They might make the playoffs. Yeah, they really could.
So are you guys committing to a Miami playoff berth right now? Because I'm committing to a no Miami playoff berth.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'll commit. Yeah, I'll commit. Sure.
So you guys are both okay. All right,
yeah.
We'll see.
Barring obviously if Tua and the receivers stay healthy, yeah, they'll make the playoffs. I think so.
I just want to make one more point. Not necessarily about the Dolphins, but who would have thought through 2 weeks in the NFL, the 3 passing leaders in order, Tua Tagovailoa, number 1.
Flacco.
Carson Wentz, number 2.
Flacco's 2. I think Wentz is 3.
Joe Flacco, 3. I have it right here.
Okay.
So who would have thought between Tua, Wentz, and Flacco would be the leading passers in the NFL? Anyway,
that's insane. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Tua has 2 all-pro wide receivers who run wide open, apparently. I've never seen any. I've never seen.
They weren't as open as Corey Davis at the end of the Jets-Browns game. I'll tell you that.
It was close. It was close. I've never seen so many wide open receivers running behind defenses who have leads this week than I ever have.
Yeah, we haven't disciplined the Ravens safeties and corners should be disgusted with themselves. And that's embarrassing.
They should.
That's embarrassing. That many touchdowns, Trevor. 4 touchdowns.
And you let Tua do it to you. At least let it be Mahomes.
Trevor's
let Tua do it to you.
So while we do talk about, I guess, the quarterbacks that had the open wide receivers and Joe Flacco and Tua Tagovailoa, I think we should switch over to a guy who maybe didn't have all those wide open wide receivers and still was able to get it done. And Kyler Murray and Trevor and my Arizona Cardinals, baby. How about that game? Trevor, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, you guys.
Well, I knew we were going to talk about this game, but I'm so glad it's finally here. I'm going to stare at Ryan the whole time because the face of disgust will bring me joy. But I'm going to keep this simple, like I usually do on this podcast. I'm usually right about everything, and I'm usually pretty concise in what I have to say, if I'm being real. But
like the Baltimore score, right?
Exactly. See, Exhibit A. Kyler Murray might just be the savior that we all thought Jesus Christ was, if I'm being real. I mean, what were the Cardinals receivers doing? AJ Green, I was ready to punch a hole in my TV. I just don't understand. A defender is going to come and try and strip it. Your first job should be to catch the ball, bring it into your body, and hold on tight with 2 hands. And he dropped at least 3 passes in that game. I'll give him a tiny bit of credit. He caught the 2-point conversion. But that was more because it was a perfect throw from Kyler. And let me talk about Kyler. No D-Hop, no Rondale Moore, drops from A.J. Green, drops from Marquise Brown. Offensive line, horrible in the first half.
I'm not surprised.
Kyler pulls a rabbit out of his hat, decides, I'm going to take the game into my hands. I'm going to turn this into backyard football. I'm going to run around as much as I have to. And I'm going to win us a football game by myself. And that's basically what he did. Whether it was with his legs, his arm, both, his ability to extend plays, his ability to pick up, first downs with his legs, his ability to find open receivers, his ability to make tight contested throws like the one to AJ Green. Kyler Murray did it all. And look, we've seen this before with Kyler. Actually, we saw a tale of two Kylers. We saw post Call of Duty release Kyler in the first half, and then we saw September and October MVP Kyler in the second half. And this is what he can do. And I said it to these guys after the game was over. I said, and I've said it before, but I'm really going to say it this time. The key to the Arizona Cardinals offense is not DeAndre Hopkins. It's not James Conner. It's not Cliff Kingsbury being an incompetent moron, not being able to get a play called after a timeout. I mean, I saw that at least twice on Sunday. Kyler Murray running the ball will determine the Cardinals' fate this season, because Kyler Murray as a runner makes this Arizona offense almost unguardable. It's just a fact. His legs are a game changer. His quickness, his ability to scramble, and his ability to throw on the run, and his ability to keep his eyes down the field, it all stems from his legs. If Kyler Murray is an active runner, a willing runner, and a healthy runner, the Arizona Cardinals are a very tough team to beat. And Kyler's just a way better quarterback, and the offense is way more dangerous when he's running. I think that is the key to this offense. It really is. And I've said it before, but I really want to hammer that point home, that Kyler's legs and Kyler's running ability will determine, or I should say, will decide where the Cardinals go this season as a team. I'll touch on the defense a little bit. I was pretty disgusted for the most part. I will give them credit. They stepped up in the second half, and I'm not going to give the coaching staff credit because adjustments were made, but adjustments were made by the trajectory of the game, right? You're down 20-0 at halftime. What does that tell me? Your game plan sucked. Your execution sucked. So you're forced to get more aggressive. And that's what the defense did in the second half. They stopped playing zone. They started manning up. They started getting some pressure on the quarterback. They started disrupting the timing of Derek Carr. And they got some stops. And give Byron Murphy credit. He picked up a fumble at the end of the game and ran it in. Almost threw the ball too early. That was a little bit scary. But I'll give the defense some credit. They did what they had to do in the second half. But this game was about Kyler Murray and Kyler Murray only. And yes, Cliff Kingsbury should be fired. And I'll pass it on to one of you two.
Ian, go ahead. I'm going to be quick, so you just go ahead.
This game, when I sit here and say, like, I've been a sports fan my entire life, and I've seen a lot of great sports games across many different sports. And when you're a fan of one of the teams, like, that throws you in that much more within the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going up and down as the game goes. I have never been on a roller coaster ride like I was in that game. You watch the first half, we can't move the ball. We can't stop the Raiders. Down 20-0. I was like, this game is over. And it's funny because my roommate was sitting next to me, and we're looking at the lines and stuff. And he goes, Jack, throw $5 down on them. They're 22-1 right now. Like, just throw $5 on. You're going to watch the game anyways. I didn't listen to it. Sure enough, they go down, score a touchdown. They go down, score another touchdown. And then to get that at the end of the game, like, that was just insane. The fact that the clock ran out, the fact that Kyler's running around the backfield for 20 seconds before scoring a 2-point conversion, the fact that it was 4th down and goal, I believe, on that last touchdown that they got with Kyler again rushing, the fact that AJ Green finally caught a ball, and we don't even know if he actually secured it. Like, the ref was in the way, so we couldn't tell. So we just went with the call on the field. But I look back at that one throw, by the way, and he puts it over this Raiders defender in front of, like, guarding Ertz, and then down into Green on the back of the end zone as he gets hit. Like, anyways, that was ridiculous. But this game, like, I mean, I don't even have any words for it. I just remember I watched that game. I took a walk around campus to calm down. I did some homework. I got in the shower. And in the shower, I'm like, it popped into my head again. I'm like, we really won that game? Like, how did that happen?
Oh my gosh.
And all those same feelings just came back. So anyways, I don't know how this team is 1-1. Their defense, in my opinion, is not very good, even with what they showed in the second half. I just don't think that they're a very good defense. And ultimately, you have to outscore teams to win with that style of play, which I don't know how we held them to 3 points in the second half, but we did. And anyways, it took some Kyler Murray magic and a couple of big plays at the end with the fumbles and then the one running back for a touchdown. I mean, if I'm being honest, I have no words how to explain that game. Just that I've never been on a ride like that, and that feeling of winning was so unexpected and so crazy that I wish I'd thrown that $5 down on 22. But anyways,
Look, let me just, I'll be quick. Look, this will be easy. There's an easy way to describe what's this game. And Eden said it when talking about the Browns defense. Look at what the Raiders offense did. You're talking about switching out of top gear, switching out of 100%. Look at the Raiders offense. They weren't in top gear for a lot of that third quarter, even some of the fourth quarter. And then when they needed to be, when they actually needed to make a cut, they weren't ready. They were so stagnant. They could do nothing. Right? They had 3 points the entire second half. And I'm sure they thought they had the game in the bag. Right? I mean, I would have thought they had the game in the bag. I thought it was done. But they got complacent. They changed their game plan. They just started, just not, being as aggressive. And look where that gets them. And also Adams, an awful game. Really weird because the Cardinals have no secondary. Very strange.
Byron Murphy
credit.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to say Byron Murphy can shut down Devontae Adams. This is
he did. So
this is a Raiders, okay. And this is a Raiders
Numbers
and Derek Carr thing. This is a Raiders and a Derek Carr thing. All right, let's not pretend. But look, there's that, and then
2 of 7 for 10 yards and a touchdown against the best wide receiver in the NFL.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's called the Raiders and Derek Carr. I'm sorry. Look, Byron Murphy's not like Devontae Adams' kryptonite. Look, that's just not how it is.
Adams last week had, I think, 120 and a touchdown.
Yeah,
on like 7 or 8 catches. Okay,
I think it was 10 catches. Oh yeah, Derek Carr also threw 3 picks. I mean, Derek Carr. Yeah. Look, my point is the offense got stagnant, and then I've heard this Kyler story before. This is the 3rd season in a row I've heard the same thing.
Nobody's saying
the same story. Kyler Murray's the savior. Kyler Murray is so amazing.
I said for yesterday's game, for Sunday's game,
he wins us all these improbable games. He looks so good. What will we do without him? And then here comes the second half of the season, which we'll get to in about a month and a half. And Kyler starts slowing down. He'll get hurt a couple games. Colt McCoy will actually win a game or two, show you that they don't need Kyler to win a game or two, and be like, wait a minute. Kyler didn't show up the second half of the season. What happened? Look, my point is I need to see Kyler do this across an entire season before I can
Jack and I need to see that too. Jack and I are just strictly talking about the game on Sunday. That was a Kyler magic game. That's all we're trying to say.
Sure, it was. It was also
and you can tell he has it in him. It's just can he figure it out come November, December?
Play Call of Duty.
Yeah, I just, you guys, I don't know. You started 7-0 last year. You're not going to this year. I don't know. It was a good win last week. Hunter Renfro's an idiot. 2 fumbles on 3 plays. You should literally be benched next week. You're bad. That was awful.
Don't hate on my fantasy player like that, man.
Bro, Eden, he fumbles 2 plays later. They go to him again. He fumbles again.
No, it was back-to-back plays.
Oh, was it back-to-back? I thought there was one play in between. That's even worse. Yeah.
Which, by the way, shout out Isaiah Simmons for not playing the entire first half. He played limited snaps, and he was the one who came up with that fumble that ultimately Byron Murphy ran back.
If you look close enough at the replay, ladies and gentlemen, you actually see Hunter Renfrow hand him the ball. So it actually wasn't Isaiah Simmons. It was just Hunter Renfrow, just literally giving him the ball. I'm being dumb. I'm just saying because he fumbled on back-to-back plays. I was going to say,
can we stitch that in our podcast?
I was like, well, what about the hit that Simmons,
I'm just kidding. Renfrow? It's just like, I just can't believe it. You fumble the play before, you get gifted a recovery, and you let yourself fumble. I just can't believe that.
I can.
Back-to-back plays. That's awful. That's so bad.
That's almost as bad as the Browns.
That was the Browns. Back-to-back fumbles. The onside kick, the 70-yard touchdown. They're all fumbles. It was all fumbling the game away in different ways. But
You know,
Look,
after this podcast, I'm gonna go and cry, but that's not neither here nor there. But
I want to
look,
jump in because Ryan is disrespecting Byron Murphy.
I am
Murphy-
disrespecting him. Yes,
Byron Murphy is the unsung hero of this game because he did neutralize Devontae Adams as good as anybody can neutralize him, right? Derek Carr not getting him the ball is partially Derek Carr's fault, but he threw the ball his way 7 times. It's not like Devontae Adams didn't get a target. He got 7 targets. That's a little low by his standards because he's so good.
It's 17 week 1, yeah.
But they were also
what I
up
mean,
20
though.
the whole game.
My thing is like, look, Devontae Adams is going to usually average between 7 and 17 targets. 7 is the low end, 17 is the high end. And I think Byron Murphy was just doing a great job. I think Byron Murphy guarded him as well as anybody can guard him. And he only caught 2 passes. So it's not like he caught 6 passes on 7 targets. I think Byron Murphy deserves a lot of credit. And look, it wasn't like Murphy was on one side of the field. He was shadowing Devontae Adams the whole game. He followed Devontae Adams the whole game. And I want to give Byron Murphy some credit. And he scored the game-winning touchdown. Barely. It was very close. But he did score the game-winning touchdown. And I think he deserves a shout-out because he is a little bit of an unsung hero in this game.
While you're doing this, can I shout out Darren Waller for being pathetic? Devontae Adams is being double covered the entire game, and you got to step up. This is embarrassing.
He didn't have a bad game.
Didn't he have like 6 for 50 and a touchdown?
He had a solid game. What are you talking about?
50 yards, pathetic,
And a
embarrassing.
touchdown. That was 5 times what Adams had.
Hey, Adams
So-
Adams had a TD. Adams had a
Okay.
touchdown himself. I'm just like, whatever. It's fine. Adams gets double cover. I expect more out of the other guys. I think it's Derek Carr, to be honest. Derek Carr I might have overrated him, to be honest. I need to watch more of him, but like he has really struggled through 2 games.
I think Josh McDaniels is also a guy that needs to be criticized a little bit here for this game. I really do. I just think there's no reason to let a team back in a game when you're up 20-0. You know,
You're right.
my thing is like, it's hard to keep your guys, as focused as it would be in a 0-0 game.
Yeah.
But you have to do something. You have to be able, he's an offensive guy, right? You have to be able to keep your offense out there long enough, in the second half to give your defense breaks. And it's not like the Raiders weren't able to run the ball. Josh Jacobs was having a good game. He was running the ball fairly effectively. And so for me, I'm a little disappointed in McDaniels. I think Raiders fans are ripping him right now a little too much. This game was Murray Magic. K1 Magic, Murray Magic, whatever you want to call it. I know Ryan's sick of hearing it, but we see it. Look, Jack and I can relate as Cardinals fans. There's about 2 or 3 games a year where the Cardinals seemingly win a game for no apparent reason except for Kyler Murray. It just happens 2-3 times a year. This was one of those games. Kyler Murray won in spite of his terrible head coach, his terrible defensive coordinator, his terrible defense, his terrible receivers, his below average offensive line. Kyler Murray found a way to win this game. And I think that's what we should really emphasize here is Murray magic and Joe Flacco magic.
Let me just say
they both happened on Sunday.
This game made me sick to watch. I was sick. As soon as they got the 2-point conversion, I threw my remote. I was furious. This was disgusting.
Why were you angry?
I was mad. When the Cardinals lose, it brings a smile to my face. Okay. Look, it's fine. We can move on from this. Whatever. Kyler and his early season shenanigans. He already lost.
What else are we going to talk about? What else do we have to talk about on this pod?
Look, I wanted
Games
someone to bring up.
Picks.
Yeah, look,
true.
Let's do the picks right now. I'm going to jump on one of your games of the week because I don't want to do 3. We've been talking for a while. Eden, what's the pick for the week? Or you want me to give my take on a line? What do you want to do first?
Let's do Ryan's pick of the week. Ryan's line. He won last week on the Dolphins plus 3.5, so that moves him to 1-1 on the season. Trevor, were we gonna do the Bills game? Is that what
we are? Yeah, let's do that one.
Awesome. So I'm just
easy.
gonna get the official line on ESPN. It says Bills -6. I don't know if it's 6.5 on a sports book. I don't know what we want to go with, Trevor, but I'm checking draft.
Just go with ESPN for now. It's okay.
All right. Bills
-6
on the road at Miami against Tua, who just had 500 passing yards. -6 on the road in a divisional matchup. Ryan, what side are you taking?
This is tough, but then I remember how good the Bills are, and I take Bills -6 all day. This is the easiest bet of the week. This was an easy one. The Dolphins are good. The Dolphins are a talented team. They'll make the playoffs. but Buffalo's the best team in football. They stomped the Rams in LA week 1. They stomped the Titans to the point where Derrick Henry was taken out of the game. And I got to laugh at my boy Trevor because I beat him in fantasy. And they destroyed their opponents in the first 2 weeks. They're rolling right now. I love Miami, but no, I'm taking Buffalo -6 all day. This is for sure. -6.
I agree. I wholeheartly agree with everything Ryan
I think I agree as well, which is unfortunate. But
sorry, Jack. You wanted me to take. I know you wanted me to take Miami +6. I'm sorry. I just.
no, I was just curious. I wanted to know.
If it was +8, maybe it would have been different.
I'd like to introduce a new segment onto the show called Trevor's Lock of the Week. I'm just kidding. Rams -3.5 at Arizona. That's my pick. Sorry, Cardinals fans. We don't win home games. And Sean McVay owns Cliff Kingsbury. Rams -3.5. It's a lock.
Ian?
Well, that was gonna be mine, so I guess I'll go with a different one.
That was gonna be yours.
I'm looking right now.
Wait.
I have
You
my
do
pick.
have one. Yeah.
I do have a separate pick
I hate
that
you. I
that
know
I was
what it
talking
is.
about
I hate
before
you.
the podcast.
Don't
I
say
have
it.
no,
Don't say it.
I'm not gonna say it. It's gonna be the Monday Night Football game. The Cowboys on the road in a divisional matchup against the 2-0 New York Football Giants. The Giants are favored for the first time actually they were favored last week, but I'm going with Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys money line on the road. It was, I believe, 3 or 2.5. They were dogs earlier. The line is now moved to 1 where they're dogs. I'm taking the Cowboys money line. That's how I like them to win. And I just put a bet on them even money line.
I got
All
one
right.
other lock. I got 2 locks this week. My other lock is going to be an over-under pick. Over 52 points, Bills Dolphins. I think that is the easiest thing I'm looking at on this slate of picks right now. We just saw Buffalo and Miami both go for 40. Miami's defense isn't special. Buffalo's defense is good, but I think Miami playing from behind will score points later in the game. I think over 52 is a very safe bet for the Bills Dolphins game.
I like that too.
That's probably gonna happen. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami got stomped. It's just
Ryan, you got a pick? You want to contribute to the group or what?
No, I did my pick of the week courtesy of Eden. That's all I'm gonna do.
Quickly, game of the week. My game of the week this week.
You just did one. What do you mean? No.
I did a spread.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
The Packers at the Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a really interesting game.
Sure.
No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, potentially no Julio Jones for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home against Aaron Rodgers on a Packers team that just significantly won at home. I like the Packers this week. Call me crazy, even though the Buccaneers probably, in my opinion, have the best defense in football. I don't know. I just have some weird feeling that Aaron Rodgers is going to get a win when he shouldn't. I like the Packers this week. I was curious on your guys' thoughts.
Yeah. I'll be brief. I kind of agree. I was interested with this game as well. The Packers, I'm curious to see who or if Rodgers will figure out who he likes to throw to on this team. I'm just curious to see that. I think that it'll be a low-scoring game, to be honest. I don't think any team's going to go past, 24 points. I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. Like, it's going to stay in the teens for pretty much the whole game. Not a lot of receivers for Tampa. Defenses are both really good, especially the Bucs. But the Packers have a really good defense in themselves as well. We'll see what happens. I just want to see who Aaron Rodgers is going to learn to throw to. That's kind of what I'm curious about. But I think the Bucs will win, but it'll be close. I see why you think the Packers will win. It'll be a close game. It'll be a good game.
I don't know. This is an interesting one. I like the Bucs at home to cover. Yeah. I love the way their defense is playing, and I think their defense is playing the right way if you want to win in today's NFL, and I've said this a couple times in the pod. The Buccaneers play a lot of man-to-man. They get in your face. They play press coverage. They're physical. Carlton Davis is physical. Their safeties are really good. So I think they cover the right way. And I think the inexperience of a lot of these Packers wide receivers and just, the overall quality of wide receivers for Green Bay is going to make it really hard on the Packers to score. And I think Tampa Bay's defense is going to carry them most of this game. And I think they're going to win this one. I think they're going to win 20-13, 20-16, something like that. But I think they'll get a big score late in the game, kind of like they did against the Saints. And I don't think the Packers defense is better than the Saints defense. I think the Saints, who also have Tom Brady in the Buccaneers number, I think the Saints was a very good challenge for the Buccaneers. They overcame it. We'll see who they have on Sunday to throw the ball to, but I like Tampa Bay to cover at home, and I like the under on this game, 42 points. I like the under.
Yeah, I agree with that actually.
Any other games of the week, fellas?
Trevor, do you have one? Because if not, I have one. But
I have one.
Go ahead. It's fine.
University of Arizona football at Cal, baby. We're trying to go to 3-1.
Yeah, no.
Go Cats.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna ignore that. Honestly, to be honest, I was gonna say I'm interested in the Miami Buffalo game, but that might be kind of boring. I'm sorry. I know we talked about the line, but I was curious to see again if Miami can surprise.
Oh, you know what? I should have a game. I have a game. Sorry. Go to round.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna say I'm interested to see if Miami can surprise me and like actually like make this closer than 6.
I'm gonna interrupt Ryan because he's boring, but I have an interesting game here.
Oh, get out of here. Go whatever. Go ahead. I hate you.
We're all picking Buffalo, I assume. Yeah.
I actually have an interesting game. I think the Jags-Chargers game is going to be a lot more interesting than people think. I think the Jags are better.
I was thinking about that.
The Jags are good. I think they're,
with Herbert hurt, right? Could it be like maybe a shootout in a way? Like, can the Jags keep up with an injured Herbert? Maybe. Yeah.
I think that's an interesting game to watch for on Sunday. But
shout out to my guy Christian Kirk, really clutched it up for me in fantasy. Trevor lost to me because of it, so thank you. Last minute start. He's everyone. If you have him on your team, start him. He's actually insane. So kudos to the Cardinals for giving him up. I appreciate that because
I also want to give a shout out, and Eden will second this shout out. Shout out the University of Arizona football this past weekend, beating the number 1 FCS team in the country, North Dakota State, who had won 5 straight games against FBS opponents. That was actually a very underrated win for this football program.
After getting smoked by the SEC team. Sorry.
Okay. Be quiet. Look, it was a great win. The program's heading in the right direction. We're 2-1 heading into conference play. We're going to beat Cal this weekend, and we're going to lead the Pac-12 South through 4 games, and I can't wait.
Yeah. While we're doing shout out to my Auburn Tigers for getting absolutely smoked by Penn State this past weekend. Really,
did you go there? I forgot. How many years did you go to Auburn?
really good performance.
Do they have a satellite campus in Dallas, Texas? I'm not sure.
They really put up really good fight at home. Really performed for the home crowd. Really did what? Oh, I'm sorry. They got smoked. Yeah, what an embarrassing performance. The coach should be fired. He's pathetic. Reset the program. You're an embarrassment to the SEC, and I was ashamed. So that was sad. My dad was furious. This is awful to watch. So yeah, that was just, I needed to shout it out in a bad way. That was awful. Really bad.
I have 2 shout outs this week. The first one we've already talked about. Shout out Joe Flacco him for what he did this week to the Cleveland Browns. As Ryan said, when the Cardinals lose, it brings a smile to his face. When the Cleveland Browns lose, especially in that way, it brings a great smile to my face and probably Trevor's as well. And
it was fun to watch that game for sure.
My second shout out this week is going to be to Jeff Bezos because he will soon be the new owner of the Phoenix Suns. Thank God Robert Sarver is selling. He was not forced to sell, but he decided to sell.
Yeah.
Which we can get into on another podcast. But as a Suns fan, it's a great day to be a Suns fan now that he will be out. And the future of the Phoenix Suns looks bright, man. Maybe this is what we need to win a championship. Can bring in Jeff Bezos.
Can I say there's some emerging news in the NBA, organization, whatever you want to say. I don't know, the league right now. The Boston Celtics head coach Ime Udoka is facing a significant suspension for an unspecified violation of organizational guidelines. A significant suspension. I don't know what he did, but apparently something's going on in Boston. I don't know what he could have done, but it's just interesting to keep an eye on. Significant suspension is what
where you see. I have not seen this.
Adrian Wojnarowski.
Oh, he tweeted that 2 minutes ago.
I just thought it was like, I wouldn't say anything, but they said significant suspension. So I don't know if it's just something to keep an eye on. So I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to be like 20, 30 games. I don't know if it's going to be that significant. I'm curious to see. But that hey, who knows? That might be a little weird for the Celtics. So kind of weird. Yeah, Trevor, right? Like, isn't that weird? It's very
that is odd. And I want to touch on the Jeff Bezos thing real quick. Say bye-bye to the luxury tax when he buys the Suns, because that man has unlimited pockets. We're going to buy Kevin Durant. We're going to buy Mookie Betts. We're going to buy everybody else. We're going to win a championship because we have more money than you. Jeff Bezos, You're rich.
What a change of pace it would be from Robert Sarver.
That's what I'm saying. Sarver's cheap. Jeff Bezos has too much money. He can't be cheap.
True. But look, ladies and gentlemen, I think that just about does it. Let's hope Jeff Bezos does not become the next owner of the Phoenix Suns for my sake and for everyone else across the country's sake. We're going to leave it at that. We'll see who, buys the team, but I hope it's not him. I guess hope everyone enjoys, and we will be back next week talking about more NFL as always, maybe sprinkling in some college football and NBA. But until then,
Devin, book him.